You're trying to figure out the best link building strategy for you? Well, today you come to the right place. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of 9 very popular link building strategies that you can implement. By the end of this video, you'll know what the best link strategies are for you and which ones to use to accomplish your goals with link building. So let's just dive right in. All right, let's start with the tried and true guest blogging. Everybody knows about guest blogging. Find sites that accept guest blog posts and guest authors. You do a little outreach to them, pitch them your idea, and boom, you have an opportunity. So then you go to the drawing board, you type up your guest blog post, you submit it, and the unwritten law in SEO with guest blog posting is that they honor you with a link back to your website, generally in the body and preferably not in the author bio at the bottom of the page. So there's lots of pros and cons to guest blog posting. So the main pros and the focus of guest blog posting is that, one, it's very scalable. There's a lot of sites that accept guest blog posts out there, and you can do some very basic search parameters to find sites in all kinds of different verticals that accept guest blog posts. That is a really good way to scale your link building for potentially months and months to come, and for many people that's their sole link building strategy. So it's worth mentioning here at the top of our list, because you could, in theory, just do guest blog posting for the rest of your link building career, and then enjoy the benefits of that. So there's a lot of cons with guest blog posting. The first and foremost, let's just talk about Google kind of frowns upon guest blog posting. They saw that a lot of people were abusing guest blog posting. They were using sites that solicited guest blog posts, but they were not publishing good quality content. They were just these little tiny worthless blogs, basically accepting content for the sake of pushing out content, providing real no value to the reader or the site, but it was just a way to get links, and these people were trying to game the system in essence. So Google saw that, they started penalizing link building from guest blog posts, but it doesn't mean it's the only way that you can do link building. Additional cons with guest blog posting are, well, for one, you have to write a lot of content. So let's say you get accepted to a guest blog post, you then have to either write a blog yourself or outsource a blog and then get it written for you. And if you're gonna use this as a strategy, you actually have to create really good content, because if you want to get good links, meaningful links, and not necessarily build tons and tons of links, but get quality links from high domain rating sites, they're gonna expect a high level of quality content from you. So there is a lot of effort that goes into, one, finding these blog sites, but more so creating the actual content that is going to be submitted to these sites. And then you're going to have to wait for the editors to approve the content and publish the content. So in some regards, it might be a little bit slower than what you'd like, but it still works really well. So that is the gist of the pros and cons of guest blog posting. If you do it right, great content, good credible sites, it can be a really effective strategy. If you do it wrong, try to find real spammy sites and just try to game the system and flood guest blog posts or create really bad content, it probably is not going to be a good solution for you. However, it probably is and will remain the most tried and true link building method out there for SEOs. Okay, so our next method, and really the basis of what all link building and link building outreach is based on, is just link requests. You have a piece of content, you go out there and find sites that talk about a similar topic, and you ask them to link to your site. So you find a blog that has maybe something similar to your blog, and you say, hey, will you link to my blog? We talk about something else, and the other way to do this is to reverse engineer competitors that rank maybe for your primary keyword or similar keywords. You find all the sites that link to them, you create them, put them in your database, and then you do outreach to all those sites. Say, hey, we also created a topic on this that you linked to. I saw that you linked to this topic. Will you also link to me, or check out my posts, so on and so forth. So this is a good way to find a lot of link partners. You can easily reverse engineer competitors that rank really well, especially with popular sites, and be like, wow, there's hundreds of sites I can potentially prospect and do link outreach to. However, the cons of this is that you have to spend a lot of time sending emails to get responses, and these emails really work best when they're personalized. A lot of people just do the spray and pray. They'll upload the list of all of these sites and they'll just send a generic email. That goes something like this. Hey, I saw that you linked to so-and-so's website. We created a piece on something similar. Would you also link to us? And if you got that email, you probably just ignore it or trash it or block that guy. So in that way, the link request aspect is a little bit tough. It doesn't work super well. The response rates are really low and it's very time consuming. So on the other hand, if these sites that are getting a lot of these requests are high domain rating or domain authority, they probably get dozens of these types of requests a day, super non-creative link prospecting, and it's just unlikely that they're going to entertain your request. So that process still looks really good. Link request, just straight up link replacement, is a tried and true way to do link building. It's definitely gotten harder over the years, especially now. And what I find with the link request is people just ask for money. They just say, yeah, sure, we'll do it, but it's going to cost you. And we'll get to paid link building later, but if that's not what you're setting out to do, then you're gonna be surprised by how many people ask for money. So another effective way to do link building is through broken link building. So broken link building is when you go to a site, try to find all the broken external links on that site, and then try to find out what the content is that has the external link and then where they're linking, and then you reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed that this link on your site is broken. I have a similar asset to what you were linking to, and would you mind linking to me? So in turn, you're actually doing them a favor by telling them that they have a broken link on their site, which is actually doing them a favor. On the other hand, it can be difficult to find these kind of broken link opportunities. You might have to create the content just to try to secure the link and then do the outreach on top of it, especially if you find that there's a lot of links to an asset that is now broken and you want to try to take some of that content and replace it with your content, as long as it's relevant to you. So this type of outreach does not really work well in every industry. From what I found, in some industries it works really well. In the SEO industry, for example, tried this, does not work well in the SEO industry. So take that into account if you're going to do broken link building. So number 4 on the list are directory links. So we're talking about general or niche sites. So like a Yelp or Best of the Web or general niche sites around you. So you've probably heard of this and you're like, well, directory links, is that really a link? So I'll get into that. On one hand, it can be a really fast way to get links, particularly if you are in the local SEO industry. You can get links from these citation building sites, and a lot of these sites are really cheap to get links on if you want to pay a company to do it or build them yourself. It's quite easy to get a link listed on the directory sites. So, albeit these sites generally aren't very powerful in terms of how they help with your overall link building campaign. Yeah, you might get a couple links here and there. On the con side, these sites tend to be no follow, so they don't really give link juice or pass a lot of authority to your site. However, they do make a more robust link portfolio, so that's the reason that they're even worth mentioning on this list. Another way, and this is kind of controversial in the SEO industry, but it still works pretty well, is reciprocal link building. So maybe somebody does some outreach to you or your client site, says, hey, will you give us a link? And you say, instead of just ignoring them or saying no, you say, hey, what about if you give a link to our site, provided that they have a legitimate or credible site? So of course it's gonna be a win-win. It's really quick and easy, and it's a nice way to get a good link if the outreach partner who contacted you has a decent DR. But like we said, the cons are it's generally frowned upon by Google, and then too many reciprocal links can make for a very unnatural link profile. I've seen some research published from Ahrefs that was looking at reciprocal links and to see if the big sites do it. And what they found was very interesting. They actually found that a large majority of sites, much bigger sites, do a lot of interlinking. So while Google might say they frown upon it, the fact is these sites are not getting penalized for it, and it actually is working very well. So what I like to do is kind of like a bonus tip. If somebody emails your client and your client forwarded you that email because they're soliciting a link from your client site, maybe there are other SEOs and maybe they have other sites in their network, and maybe you can actually collaborate and work together to do something meaningful, like blog or guest blog, or actually link to a blog they need, and so forth. So maybe something not reciprocal in terms of site to site, but something that works for the collective networks of sites. And that's something that's actually worked pretty well for us. Just it's like a low-hanging fruit type thing. So another great way to get links, and this is a really popular one and a really easy one, is looking for unlinked mentions. So you can also call these a citation. A citation is just a mention of your brand name on the internet. So what you do is you find mentions of your brand that are not linked, and then you just ask them for links. Say, hey, I saw that you mentioned us in your blog or your article and you did not link to us. Can we get a link from you? So the pros, it's very high success rate. They already spoke about you. They already think you're credible if they mentioned you on your site, most likely, and they'll be happy to just send you a quick homepage link generally. And often these mentions can be from high DR media sites, which is really a great win, especially if they got picked up or re-syndicated from some press release type thing. So the cons of this, if you're a small brand, there's probably not a lot of mentions of your brand across the web, and you just won't have that many prospects to try to do outreach to. All right, so moving on, syndication is the next option, the next link building strategy here. So for example, if you create an infographic or a video and you want to share it across the web, there's tons and tons of the sharing websites. For example, Visually, visual.ly is one of the top ones you can actually submit your infographic to for free and get a really high follow, I believe, link. So the pros of this, there's lots of sharing sites to choose from, and they can be pretty quick wins. And if you have a really great infographic or like video asset, they can go viral potentially and they can get picked up all over the web. Then you get a bunch of natural links. But for most people, they're just going to get as many links as they submit to these infographic or video sharing websites, which can be a nice win and a nice way to diversify. The cons, these assets take a really long time to create. So infographic link building used to be probably one of the best things to do for link building about 3 or 4 years ago. And then it got so played out that less and less people were wanting to post infographics on their website and then link back. It just got kind of played out. That's just SEO for you, right? So the links aren't also super powerful because they're generally just mentions of your homepage or your domain, and it doesn't make for like a super diverse link portfolio. So consider that if you're going to look into that. So another thing is community site links. So we're talking about like a Reddit or Quora, etc. So there's a lot of these sites to try to get featured on, which is great. You can try to get featured on all these sites and get exposure. Of course, most of these are no follow. However, no follow links do make up for a diversified link profile, so they shouldn't be frowned upon or avoided. It's just probably not something you want to spend a particular amount of time on. However, with Reddit in particular, if something becomes really popular, then you can actually earn a follow link. That's something to look into. All right, so finally, and the most controversial thing on this list is paying for links. So you find a site or a vendor and you just simply pay them for links. You'll probably find that as you do any link outreach, somebody's going to ask you for some exchange of money along the way, whether it be $70 or $80 or $300, depends on the domain rating. You're gonna get somebody to ask if you want to pay them to procure your link on their website. So despite what you think, a lot of people in the SEO industry are doing this, and you can definitely scale your link building, and you don't have to spend a lot of time on outreach and research if you pay for links. However, the cons are it's generally frowned upon by Google in the SEO industry as a whole. And then if you are paying for links, you're probably risking getting placed on what's called a PBN or a private blog network, which in time could eventually end up hurting your site. Google is really good at finding these kind of link scheme type networks of these sites that are clearly just putting garbage links up because they're contextually irrelevant, and then Google will catch on, and then instead of those things actually just having no value, they actually come to hurt your site. So you got to be really careful of that. Not something I would advise if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't want to go in that gray hat area of SEO. So those are all the link building strategies that are really popular right now. Probably best practice is to do a combination of these to get a nice diverse link portfolio, and then see which one works best for you.